I think that you can tell the character of someone from their social media, especially if you know them personally. You're kind of like, well, I know that they're thinking about the movement and having conversations with people. But then there are some people that you know it's transparent and has no real motivation behind it and no good intention.
Yeah. 1, 2. Okay, do something, got me goose bumping in the lot. You gon' prove something, or this dude, what you really taught. This the move, we gon' bring the crew up here to the spot. And I move, I don't wanna lose something that I got. Okay, late night with the boy.
We don't, So, this is the beginning of the podcast.
Right into it.
We just did welcome. Good. I just start clapping.
That's perfect, though. I love
this
it.
This is episode
5
of the podcast. 5.
So,
and we're all kind of high-fiving.
Yeah.
And our guest today.
Jumping right in there. Esteemed guest, of course, of the day is Tobey. I guess I'm not going to say last name, but, we're going to plug your socials and everything right in the description. So, dear viewers, please check the description. You got this. You're not illiterate, I hope. Esteemed guest Tobey to talk about her most recent EP. And as usual with these podcasts, we're used music as a jumping off point. So after that, we're going to get into kind of the grit of that, the influences, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So Tobey, a while back you released an amazing EP. What was it titled again? Sunflower Girl?
My EP was titled Party of One. But
Party of One. Oh shoot. That was like the
lead single.
My bad. Oh my god. I'm tripping so hard.
Party of One in April, early April. So like kind of like the fresh start of quarantine.
Yes. And it fits quarantine like so well. For sure.
Party of One.
Definitely.
Party of One. Totally. Yes. We can definitely feel that influence.
So what made you want to make an EP? Like what made you want to because before you dropped, I don't know if Sunflower Girl was released when you thought of the EP and you already had it as a part, or just released as a single and you decided to put it on later. But what made you want to create an EP? Your first EP?
Yeah, so originally Sunflower Girl was released in June of 2019, and from there I make my music with my brother. He's the one that produces everything. And so I kind of told him back in June, and I was like, I want to make an EP, but I think Sunflower Girl should be the first single, and then we should release all my other songs, which had some songs like Buzzkill, and then some other ones that aren't on Party of One. But we just decided to go with the Sunflower Girl single, and then kind of put in more work towards releasing a later EP.
So it sort of like crystallized around that, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Sunflower Girl definitely sets the tone for like Party of One. Party of One is a literal lyric from Sunflower Girl, so kind of ties in. But
yeah, I get you.
And then
I love when that happens. Have their like callbacks kind of to like you said, it's really important to set the tone kind of early on to be like, this is what I'm talking about. Like just to kind of like very much in the EP, you're putting your heart out there. Like it's 100%. Your heart is totally on your sleeve. You're like,
definitely the
this is what it's about. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's super, super cool about it. So you can find like a myriad, like a ton of different influences on the EP. And so one I was really curious about is Disney is actually a really big part of your life. And so I was just wondering, how much has that influenced the project? Yeah. Or at the time, or now?
Yeah. So let me think. Disney is like kind of like the main reason why one of the biggest reasons why I do music and why I feel like I'm so creative. Just because like growing up, I would watch High School Musical and be like, oh, I want to do that. Like I want to make music. And I originally started out dancing, and then I got more into songwriting kind of in middle school, and then that really became my like one big passion. So Disney definitely has like one of the biggest influences on the way I write, and obviously Buzzkill has that little Buzz Lightyear influence.
Yeah, the little sample.
Yeah, and since the whole EP is kind of like about growing up and changing, that whole little Disney reference is definitely like a nod to my childhood. So
I get that.
Yeah,
I really, first of all, as an artist, I really commend the amount of like yourself you put into this project. Like what I've noticed is, and I don't know if you can kind of you kind of feel the same way, but I feel like I see a lot of artists reach their closest fans and reach the best connections when they're the most vulnerable. So, for example, I think
100.
that the more specific you are about the problems that you're facing, oh, my light's off, I'll fix that. But the more specific you are about the problems you're facing, the less you're going to appeal to maybe like, I'd say a mainstream, like a bunch of people, but for the people you appeal to, it's going to completely change everything. So, like the more specific you are, and that's, I think, a really hard thing to take those issues and be so vulnerable with them, because there's so much fear around it. There's so much, because a lot of people know you for who you are at school or who you are like in a certain class, but a lot of people don't know who you truly are. So showing yourself in this music and having it be public for streaming and stuff is extremely hard to do, but I think in the end is extremely helpful, because music is the language of our generation.
Yeah, you get like a lot of self-reflection from that. And I guess another thing too is like it's like you could have obviously gone very different ways with the lyrics and stuff, and so it was obviously probably every step of the way. I don't want to assume or anything, but I'm sure both of you have faced a lot of choice of how much of yourself to put in your music. And I think if I may I guess make a guess at this, I feel like there have been times when you might have fallen into it a little bit too much, or I'm sure you guys have like IDs out there that are just really brutal and dark and brooding.
That's I want to talk about like that with Rohan, and even you, Robert, because thing. But like,
sure.
I feel like there's such like a battle like with writing some songs, especially when they're about yourself and then an encounter with someone else, because it's like you're not just telling your own story, you're telling a piece of someone else's, and it's almost like, am I oversharing? And it's like, even though you know people are going to relate to your story and like feel from it, it's just really hard to kind of, I don't know, it feels like you're oversharing in a way.
I get that, and I can see how like it might even it's positive for self-reflection, but it also might like result in personal tension as well, because that person probably knows like you're talking about me and the music. And,
it's like a Taylor Swift moment, like writing a song about someone and like they totally know it's about them, and you're just like, it's
exactly.
You're like, it's my my outlet, whatever.
Yeah, and it's hard because like wait, sorry, what were you saying? Oh, you want me to
you can continue.
Okay. So I think it's hard because people are not like, no one's like objectively like people are too complicated to be bad or good. But when you're painting experience you have and it's a bad experience with somebody, like it's hard because you feel like sometimes in order to avoid that personal tension, you have to sugarcoat it a little bit or dumb it down.
Oh, how like it's like an internal struggle of like the pieces that you do want to share, and then kind of things that you feel like you should almost keep to yourself because they're so private, like between someone else or like a group of people. And I definitely felt that the most with Body of One, which I didn't really expect, but that was definitely like a whole learning experience.
Yeah, I feel that. And I've definitely also seen parallels in how like for example, an artist like Elohim, she talks about her own anxiety and stress and stuff, but she gets into it, how, you know, you can be like crying so hard you throw up, and you can see yourself and just be livid at who you are, like complete hatred of yourself. And it's scary. It's horrifying. That's the fact of the matter, that there are people who they can sometimes see themselves that way. And so when I first listened to it, I guess I didn't really fully appreciate it. But after a few listens, actually, I started to kind of understand it and break it apart a little bit more. And slowly kind of the realization dawns on you that this is real. And the empathy kind of, it ties in a little bit with that too. And so another thing too is, like you were saying, Tobey, about when I feel like a lot of the time, sometimes artists will present a character almost like you're not exactly like it's kind of like you're playing a character, and like you're saying, you have to choose to put in and what to leave. You want to make this character of you very, very rich and strong and nuanced, but at the same time, if you start it's kind of like like voodoo dolls. You know, if you make one super, super realistic, like there are times when you don't even know where you begin and the artist ends. Have you experienced?
I totally understand that.
Oh.
And it's like, I feel like choosing what narrative you want to share and from whose point of view you want to share it from is a huge part of songwriting. And I've definitely wanted to try like writing from a character more, because I feel like what I've done is mostly writing from my own point of view. But I feel like writing from a character or from someone else's eyes would definitely be a challenge and definitely be super interesting.
Yeah. And I think, like you're saying, it's cool, like when you try to put yourself into a character as well, you also gain a lot more empathy, and that's like really, really big. Like that gives you, I don't want to say like it gives your music points, but like it just adds more depth to you as like an artist. Yeah.
So what made you,
I guess,
wait,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
what made you want to be very vulnerable? Because that's a step a lot of artists have, and many have it for different reasons. Like a lot of people can be talking just about basic stuff and the stuff that can just fly by. But like a lot of artists that have a true impact on people, most of them have that vulnerability and authenticity in their voice. So what made you make that choice to really take some steps to be extra specific and extra authentic in this EP?
That's a super good question also, by the way. I have to think about that. Okay. I think what led me to be vulnerable is definitely, first of all, just like the experience that I've had in general. And it's like almost like I can't even, not that I would lie about them, but it's almost like there's no way to sugarcoat them. And it's kind of like you just want to tell them in like the most transparent way possible, especially because you know there'll be words that will resonate with other people. And also, like the majority of the artists that I listen to now, my favorite artist ever is Frank Ocean, and he is like the most vulnerable person with his lyrics, and there's just no sugarcoating, it's like all on the table. And so I feel like listening to artists like that who are not afraid to speak exactly the way that their mind is extremely inspirational. So that's definitely where that kind of side of me came from, for sure.
That's super cool. And like I think the same could be said for like Tyler the Creator or Kanye. Like I think I know Kanye is very like especially in this day and age, very, very controversial. But I think just I guess to dumb it down a little bit, he's been very, very vulnerable about, I guess, his struggles with anxiety and stuff like that, and bipolar disorder. And so I think just coming at it from that angle, like you're saying, it is important that those struggles are seen and recognized by people. Like they can't be ignored or pushed away. Very much similar to how I guess really good segue here about how, and there's a lot more criticism about this now. I've interrupted myself like 12 times, but I should probably like get to the point here. But similar to how narratives of anxiety and bipolar disorder are, I guess, more prevalent, the same can be said, I guess, for narratives of and for people of color. And I know that's something that probably connects with you quite a bit, because we all happen, like three of us on this podcast right now, we are all people of color. I'm Latino and a bunch of other things. You guys can say like your respective ones, I guess.
I'm Indian.
I'm Filipino, Asian.
Yeah. And so we all come from very rich and different backgrounds. And so I guess a good question is, how much does your ethnicity and or race, or the way you define like that, how does that play into the music you make? Either one of you can go first. This is kind of an open-ended one.
I gotta think. Rohan, if you have an answer, you can go ahead.
I mean,
in my opinion,
good taking
actually,
you guys a long time.
If I'm being honest, not at all. Like,
Same,
I at least haven't gotten to the point where I've talked about that stuff, because I haven't experienced. I've experienced some things here and there with racism, like being called names and stuff like that. But it's not enough for me, I think, to like, not enough of a thing to make a song out of, compared to the other struggles that I've gone through that don't have to do with my race. So maybe I'll get to the day where I do speak about that stuff, but and maybe I'll experience something really bad or something, hopefully not, that has to do with my race. But in terms of that for now, no.
Nice.
I was kind of just thinking about it. I was like, I don't see any signs of like my culture within my song, but I guess like in Sunflower Girl and maybe even some other songs, I kind of talk about like not being the typical beauty standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that obviously plays into a part of my race and my ethnicity. So kind of just like not being like a white girl, which is like definitely a big standard here. And like, especially coming from a place like Marin and being a brown girl is like not a typical thing. And like, you aren't looked at the same. So when I think about it, I definitely do kind of pick from those pieces of my life. So I think that does have a big part of my music.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually
that's really interesting actually, because I think one thing that people of color also experience is they have a lot of experiences that have to do with struggle, and then they think back later on like, wait a second, I didn't even notice the struggle was because of my color.
Exactly.
So you'll have like struggle stuff, and then you're like, wait,
that's true.
Was this really because of my color? And like it never comes to you early on, I think, but just like later on. So you will have like struggles, but it's like
that's kind of wild. I didn't think of that.
Robert really pointed that out. No, because I had that one lyric in Sunflower Girl. It's like all these pretty girls making me feel worse, and it's like I think a lot of that really comes from like my internalized. It's not internalized racism. What's it called? Like kind of like my internalized idea that there's this beauty standard that I'm not. So it kind of comes from
like
that.
Like you're saying in that lyric, when you say pretty, you actually mean white, and that's like that's crazy. Yeah.
Something I never put together until now, which is like
it's so
totally
ingrained.
making me realize things.
Totally.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this is actually like I actually intended for the. I'm surprised it turned out this organically, but I'm glad the conversation turned towards this direction because I sort of wanted to call out, I guess, dating culture and how, like you're saying, Tobey, a lot of those standards exist on like no matter what gender you identify as. Like being a person of color is sometimes seen as undesirable dating, which is
it's even like size. It's like there's like in between. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I hate that so much where it's like you'll have these characteristics of people. I think Rina Sayama, she's Japanese and English. She's discussed this before, I think, on one of her songs. I can't remember which one it was. But about how it seems like a lot of people will pick and choose characteristics from people, like I guess like having slanted eyes as an Asian person, or like a rich brown skin, or like one that I personally hate, that I abhor, is the fact that they think, when I say they, I mean like white America. White America would typically think that or would like to think that Latino people are like spicy or hot specifically.
Right.
I hate that. It's so dumb. It's like
it's fetishizing, and it's totally not okay. I've been called exotic because of my skin color.
I hate that.
It's supposed to be a compliment, like clearly not. It's I don't know. It's an interesting thing, especially growing up here. Like this is just such a central place for racism and white elitism. So it's crazy.
Completely. I feel you. And I know we've actually been like, I think I'm a little bit different from you two in that I'm half Latino. I look kind of white, like I'm white passing. Mm-hmm. So I have the ability, just because I'm white passing, if I were to choose so, I could say like, oh, I'm white enough to pass for something like that. And that's kind of horrifying to me. And it makes me think, have there been times that I've taken this choice where I want to seem white, where I've been potentially shirking my ethnicity, my culture, just for what? For a cheap buck, for like an extra compliment? I don't know. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
So you were gonna say something wrong?
No, I just understand what you're saying. I understand that it's a complicated issue, and that I was just really into that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does suck though. Like you've been saying, Tobey, it's there's a lot of times where it's very like fetishized, or like it's like, I hate to do like the white people be like, but white people be like, I want only like this aspect of culture. You know what I mean? We'll just take tacos, you know? we'll just take the Chinese food, but we don't want the rich culture or the rich history. Get that out of here. We like food though. That's fine.
Yeah, and that's definitely what's been happening a lot too with the Black Lives Matter movement. Just like certain people that are extremely privileged, just cherry picking parts of Black culture that they wanna use for themselves, and kind of not taking out on the struggles of the Black community.
Yeah.
And that's where like that imbalance comes from, which is another issue.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
And like you're saying, it's very clear that Black culture is a lot more than just these certain things. It's a complete lifestyle, like any other culture is.
Right.
And so it's kind of asinine to say, oh, we're only going to take these few things without kind of reflecting on race, without reflecting like on the fact that Black people have just a rich history, just a rich history, and one that's just as rich as that of white people, or that of Latinx people, or that of et cetera, et cetera.
For sure.
Yeah, the cherry picking is definitely a thing that happens. And like, it's just like, I just see a lot of like race arguments in general. People like to cherry pick results while completely ignoring the causes of those results. So they can take something that maybe not them, but like a group that they're associated with cause, right? And then they'll be like, well, you're doing this. So they'll justify a reaction as an action, which I think just messes up like the logic and the reasoning that we need to kind of make everything better. And I think I've said this since I've been in high school. The best way to kind of alleviate this stuff is just to make people less ignorant. And if situations are not diverse, if locations are not diverse, this ignorance is going to naturally happen. And because of this ignorance, you're going to have discrimination. So that's my best response to it. Like, it's a thing that'll happen over time. But if we take people of different sexualities, take people of different races, take people of even different political beliefs, like, and place them and try to distribute them as equally as we can in a fair way, then people will grow up knowing that their best friends are these people and not immediately have this ignorance and judgment.
Yeah,
for sure. Exactly.
And a lot of the time, like you're saying, Rohan, that can also be, some people have like an alien mindset too, where like, and even with us, like we live in Marin, democratic alienation is that's the norm for us. But I guess and so that's why like being Republican is seen as completely alien. And I think that, we might actually have a little bit of bias too. Everybody has bias.
Right.
And so there are certainly like ways where I guess people living, like you're saying, Rohan, in places where there aren't diverse people, they don't have that sort of, they see other things as alien instead of, oh, I could potentially be your friends, instead of seeing, I guess, a friend, I might see, oh, that's an Asian person. They come from blah, 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 instead of, oh, this is just a person with a different background than I have, I guess, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's good.
I think that was good. I honestly don't have any other comments about the race thing.
Yeah.
But
I think we're kind of closing to it.
I think I said my main points.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty finito on like, I guess the race bit. I guess we could take it other directions, but I got you. Yeah.
I think relating to that in a way is why I stress music is so important, because music is what connects us, I think, and connects our generation more than anything. Because every time, I've seen this in history, every time a new genre is introduced, people, the older generation hates it, but the newer generation loves it, because that genre is seen as the way to the most authentic voice possible. So I think that, like, as artists, we by stating our beliefs, and as people too, by stating what we believe in, we have the power to really change things.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we talk about Gen Z? We are insane as a generation as a whole.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. You're sure.
Absolutely nuts. We're crazy.
We are.
We're really different.
Yeah,
we're
go off,
really
Toby.
different.
We are. Are you guys on TikTok?
Yes, I am
I'm
on
not.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah.
There's like so many funny memes where it's like Gen Z kids are afraid to like ask for like if someone gets their order wrong, they're afraid to ask for different food or whatever, but they'll like throw tear gas back at the police. And I feel like that's such an accurate representation of how we are, just because we all speak up about the things that we believe in, but also social like anxiety and like threats and all of that kind of thing plays
completely,
which I just think is really funny, but also very telling of our whole generation.
Yeah, and then it's again like the reaction action thing. Like we're reacting, we're reacting to a lot of things that older generations threw on us, and trying to handle it the best way possible. But other generations are judging those as straight actions. So I mean, everything can be a reaction, but there's a lot of context behind what we're doing. And even like TikTok, like what you're talking about, TikTok, there's people doing like things where they'll do a dance or whatever, but they'll have like mental health hotlines on the like coming on time with the song, whatever. So it kind of normalizes that. Second of all, when people are missing, they'll have like little TikToks about it. When people are trying to silence them, during protests and stuff, TikToks about it. So like
something
TikTok, it's doing a lot for the culture of everything.
Yeah, you're right. And so I think a lot of people, I guess the older generations would say, why are you presenting it in such a way that's like, I don't know, I guess one could see it as if you're doing, too lighthearted. Exactly. And it's like, well, why are you saying it like that? Well, that's the language our generation speaks, I guess, that's just our parlance. And so even though we might not be saying it in the way you want, the words are still asking for change, basically. Yeah. And so I could see how we talk weird. We talk funny.
We do.
Like, where do our slang terms even come from? I don't know slang terms.
They're so.
And I feel them. Yeah. So
That's
whack.
true.
Yeah.
But definitely.
But yeah, I guess we do have our unique voice. And I think, Rohan, something you might like to go off on is the black square, the infamous black square. I actually want to hear both your opinions.
Yeah.
Rohan's a Tobey's I have not heard yet. So
I'll go last. I mean, mine's a little bit.
Wait, Robert, do you have an opinion on it?
Oh, I forgot about that. Well, I think performative. What do they call it? Performative, like social activism. Yeah, performative activism in any form is like not good, but I think it's still a bit of like, even if you're parodying somebody's words, it forces you to consider them for a second. And so I think inherently it doesn't really go far, but it doesn't go nowhere at the same time. I guess I could see though how like people would be saying one thing but act very differently, and actions are the ones that are really making change. Yeah.
The way I see it, for at least like on Blackout Tuesday when it was happening like all over our feeds, I feel like it kind of, some people took it as more of like just a pass, like, oh, I can post this and then I'm good. Like I'm good to do nothing else.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely how I saw it for some people. And it's like, I think that you can tell the character of someone from their social media, especially if you know them personally. You're kind of like, well, I know that they're thinking about the movement and having conversations with people. But then there are some people that it's transparent and has no real motivation behind it and no good intention. So that's where I think there's no issue in posting it as long as you have the right intentions. There are definitely further things that you can do, but it's still activism, in any way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're right. You're totally right about how like it very much matters, and like I guess it doesn't really go anywhere if your intent isn't with it. And I think what's kind of crazy about what you're saying too, and something I'm realizing now, is that you can almost hear people speak through what they put on social media, whether they're actually speaking or not. If somebody shares a post that relates to BLM or like, sometimes when people will post something to their story, what I do is I almost imagine them speaking those words. And when somebody speaks, you can tell whether they're speaking the truth or not based on their body language, what they have on their face, how their shoulders are pointed, etc., you can tell whether they're really speaking honestly or whether they're like, oh, I'm just gonna say this to make sure I don't get your looks in passing in conversation. Yeah,
totally.
I definitely understand what Toby's saying. I agree with it. I'd say my thing for the black squares is, it's like, the way I think of it is, there's an issue that's been going on for a while now that a lot of people want to ignore, and that's this whole movement. And I want to make it so people do their job to make sure this is not ignored. And if someone goes outside and they see people protesting, so like, oh my God, I don't like them protesting. Let me go home. Let me check the internet. Then they see people protesting, like, let me try to escape it one more time. Let me go on Instagram. Then they see black squares. I can't escape this. And
True.
I think, intentions aside, that by itself, making it so you can't run away from this, is such a powerful thing. And I think that I'm really happy with a lot of this movement, because we're finally realizing our legal power as people. Like, we can do so much as people. And a lot of people, in terms of not only political stuff, but in like mentally, most people underestimate their power, like what they can do with their lives. Like, each of us is fueling an economy. So if you want to boycott an economy, you can have one day where no one spends, which has already happened recently. That's another way to exercise your power. You have so much power, and we're finding new ways to exercise it. And I think that the Blackout Tuesday, using our social media presence as a power to make sure people don't forget this, is a great thing. And I literally have no complaints about it.
Yeah. And Tobey, like you were saying with TikTok, wasn't there a movement a while back to, I guess this is kind of not the best example, kind of an immature one, but like taking seats in Trump's, the rally that he canceled on Juneteenth, that thing.
Yeah.
And like, even though people couldn't vote, like the people were probably like, I don't know, 16, 17, the people that use TikTok, obviously, Gen Z. But even though they're not legal, they're not able to vote yet, they're still taking action. And while that might be a small thing, I guess an infinitesimal thing, it's still an act of war. You know what I mean? It's not like the most substantial, but like in a tidal wave of people, and the amount of people that use TikTok,
it did a lot. It was crazy. That was so insane.
Yeah.
It's also very funny, but
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna agree with that.
Definitely. A little bit of, okay, this is a left turn. This is like a turn. This is a massive.
Do it. Throw it at us.
But I wanted to ask this: how did you get into? Because I know you started YouTube before music, and how did you get into YouTube and then kind of decide to transition? Because a lot of people, like even YouTubers I watch who also rap, for example, they were rappers before they were YouTubers, and they just they use YouTube to kind of, that's also something they did, but their main thing was the music. So how were you able to how was your story with the YouTube stuff, and then how did you decide to do music and then try to manage both and stuff like that?
I started YouTube when I was in like 5th grade, very young age to be like putting my face on the internet, but they were very like harmless videos. I started doing, I did my like username, I don't know if you guys know, is the Dancy Panda.
The Dancy Panda.
That's like my young little girl username, but I did like art videos, and I would like make like duct tape wallets and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually, kind of going into middle school, that's when I started writing music, and I post some of it. It didn't take over my channel though, but
you did a few covers,
yeah, I would do some covers here and there. It wasn't like anything that took off, but I guess the music really transformed when I went into high school and started a music program there, because that's where I was like, okay, I want to do this as a career. I need to figure out how to do this, because this is what I want to do. So freshman / sophomore year is really when I made the jump into music.
And I think it's just the earlier you start, the faster you get to that artistic development there.
Yeah, and there's still so much that I want to do, and like I definitely like beat myself up sometimes, because it's like, oh, I'm an adult now, I should like be getting farther, or like whatever. But there's definitely those.
That's literally exactly what I was gonna bring up. I think as musicians, a lot of us, and I feel like this is a deep problem because I feel it a lot too. You look at all these other people doing like jobs and stuff like that, and maybe even driving because I got my license late, like doing all this like crazy stuff, not crazy stuff, but like all this normal stuff. And
Right.
music's something that requires so much passion, and it's something that doesn't pay off immediately because it's very entrepreneurial in that way. Do you ever feel yourself comparing yourself to other people and kind of getting into this mental loop? Because I definitely do. I definitely do.
God, literally this is being a deep, but like literally every minute of my life, I've like gotten better for sure. But like, especially when you want to get into a career field that is solely, or not solely, but really heavily based on numbers, and like every day I'll like be like, okay, let me check my streams and like
Yes.
how much did I pay this month, or like how much am I gonna make next month, or how can my next single be bigger and get more numbers. And it's like it's like a constant cycle, which I'm trying to get out of. But that's just part of being in the industry. The sadness of it, but
I actually have a query for both of you. So do you ever find yourself kind of, I guess you might be caught in between like two selves sometimes, the like the me now and the me I could be, as in the person with more streams next week or next month or next year, whatever it is, the person with like concerts going on. But do you ever find yourself like you're shoot, my train of thought just cut. I hate when that happens. Like, do you ever find yourself, you're kind of caught between like thinking about doing something and actually like committing, like, should I be doing something right now? What could I be doing to become that me who has the like 10K streams or whatever? So you're caught between that, like, what can I do? And like, what am I actually doing though? You know?
Rohan, you look like you want to answer that one.
I'm just laughing because Robert already knows the name of the song we made, and he's just, and it's
Dude,
literally that's literally the answer. That's literally the answer to the question. You have a false idea, and I think it's not even just artists. You have this false idea of like perfection, where you have a lot of things you want to be perfect. And I think even with songs, I'm not sure if you agree with this, but like for me, I have an idea of a song, and every time I've made a song and completed and finished and released it, it's never been as good as that idea, because that idea is perfect and it doesn't exist. So you have all these perfect goals for everything you do, and you none of them actually end up perfect no matter what. So I do find myself obviously in that loop a lot, and every time I get stuck in that loop, I decide to just do something, right? Just take a step in that direction, and step in any direction. Sometimes I'm not inspired, I'll just record right here and see what just comes out, and sometimes it'll be really good, sometimes it won't. But like, just the process of continuing to create is the only way you'll get better. Because I personally feel like you can spend a lot of time refining one song, but the place I want to get to is where I've mastered or gotten really good at the skill of creating songs as fast as possible. It's like songs, because when you do something, you're training that skill. You're training the skill of creating creating like what you want to do fast. And obviously not rushed, but like being able to just be better at naturally creating, because anyone can create a really good result if they have the right amount of time, but just being able to master that in the time you have is the hard part. What about you, Tobey?
What was the question again?
I didn't.
I kind of went off a tangent.
It was more like, what do you think, I guess. But I guess I see what you're saying though, Rohan. So Tobey, do you find yourself kind of, what does it take you do to get out of that cycle of like between self-depreciation of like, I should be doing something right now, and the actual act of, I guess, writing down a chord progression or something?
I think I have to kind of make the music feel real, and if that makes any sense, because these songs are like things that I write in my room, and like, so if I were to write a song and then produce it and release it all in my room, I feel like it wouldn't be going out into the world, if that makes sense. So like so all of my singles I've recorded with my brother somewhere else. Like we recorded in LA, or when he was living in New Mexico, we recorded there for a bit. But I feel like going somewhere and kind of just like not being stuck in this bubble makes it feel a little better, if that answers the question at all.
That's
I
really
gotcha.
interesting. And I think you guys have both expressed this to me about how like just being by yourself kind of it's so much more up to you about getting stuff done. I guess it's less you have less of the chance to hand it off to somebody else to finish it. But when it comes to the like you were saying about like making something real, I know what you mean, because it's kind of like trapped within the confines of you before it's actually out
Like,
there. And so yeah.
yeah, and kind of like, I don't know, it's like, I don't want to be just like another girl that makes music or like whatever, it's like, I want these to be like real things and like almost like professional, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, kind of coming across with like a professional front is kind of a difficult thing, I think.
Definitely.
Do you ever find, I think this is really interesting, because I guess I can see a lot of that perfectionism and how it would be like, I need to differentiate myself for others, or like grow my like persona almost. And so I can see how that could be potentially like, it can be harmful at times when there's an industry standard you're gunning for.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant to ask at the end of that, is that so? Do you feel like that's right or not exactly?
I think so. I think we're also like, I keep saying like, hold on, take that.
It's fine, you're good. Don't worry about it.
What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Not really being in the heart of the industry. Like, I'm not a huge artist, obviously, but so I don't feel that kind of pressure, thankfully. But there's always like that question of, what if one day I do feel that pressure? Am I gonna change for the people that are listening, or whatever it could be? Am I going to change for my audience? Am I going to change myself? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that pressure, but I'm not there yet, so that's not something I need to worry about yet. But
yeah,
that's true.
It crosses my mind.
100% get it, man. 100%.
Yeah. And yeah, I've observed that in other artists too. Like, I could see, I know Billie Eilish had said in a few of her interviews how it's scary to see her career. Her career has blown up. Like, she's
insane.
Yeah, she's mad. And so I guess I could see how it would be crazy to like go from a state of a very small fan to suddenly having to worry about all the stuff you're talking about like imposter syndrome, or like at what point am I selling out to my fans, and at what point am I actually invested in making the music?
Yeah.
And I guess for me, it scares me a lot to see people almost selling out, or it scares me to not see that seam between, or to not tell between whether an artist actually is selling out or whether they're actually invested in it. It like scares me, that state of limbo. Yeah.
There's a lot to worry about as an artist.
And
totally. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of thoughts, and the fact that you're in control is both motivating and scary. And also just comparing to like other people, comparing yourself to other people who are not doing music, for example, and just questioning, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing something like by pursuing my career? Am I being selfish? That's also a thing that I think a lot of people go through. Am I being selfish for really trying something on my own? Am I being selfish to those around me for not giving back to the community in a different way? Right? Because once you're an artist, you're giving back to the community, the global community, and that can often be mistaken for no community because it might not have the direct impact on your community. So having that, like, all that pressure, basically saying, do you deal with that too? Do you feel like you're being selfish for pursuing your career? Because I definitely do sometimes.
Sometimes I can see where you're coming from, though. I totally understand that. Yeah, I do understand that, though, completely.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Changing things.
It's fine. Robert's just running. It's fine. We're good. But yeah,
that's a really interesting route you can go down, though. You can keep going now.
But it's just it's a lot to take in as an artist, and I think we don't give ourselves enough credit mental health wise, because a lot of ourselves go into what we create, and just because, and it sounds very, very, very simple, like when you say it, but like for it to actually click in your mind is a whole different thing. the results are not instantaneous, and like we know that, but at the same time, like looking at these numbers and defining ourselves by these numbers and defining ourselves by maybe the income we're making it starting off as an artist,
Right.
and then comparing it to people making consistent income with jobs and like side jobs and stuff, like it's just it's a lot of pressure, and it's I don't know, it's a lot. That's the most simple way to say it.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's also very easy to fall into too when you have, I guess, so many numbers dictating your career. I mean, obviously it's not an analyst, but like very much so it's like you guys are saying, checking your streams on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Or am I skipping right? Is the audio quality okay? Okay, good. But a lot of the time it's checking those streams and saying, and it's also easy to like take a stamp of time and be like, am I good enough at this point? Or like, at which point can I say like 100 streams? When can I consider myself a better artist? And so I think that leaves a lot of it to be very intrinsic. Like you guys are saying, you have to be committed to it, and you have to be self-rewarding. So I guess when like that amount of, you can't just say, oh, at this goal I will be happy, because that's not necessarily so. It's more, I will see, you have to be more attentive to the development within you as an artist. Does that make sense? Like how would you guys react to that? You think that's
And I think also one of the things that I've learned, especially after the EP came out, was that it's a lot more rewarding to like have conversations with people about the music, and like I feel like that's way more rewarding than seeing like 1,000 streams. Like even though that is like an insane number, it's like there's no face to that. There's no like personal.
There's no emotion.
Exactly. So having conversations with people about the art you make is like the best.
Definitely. Like the one-to-one fan interactions by far are the craziest, and that's what it's just having those people do crazy stuff, like contact you, say, hey, this song really helped me out, or have even not even songs, but things you do inspire other people to do similar things. It's like it's the best thing, because then you're seeing the direct impact. You're seeing not only streams, but you're seeing how you've changed someone's life in a small way. That's why I think it's really like, that's why having vision as an artist and being able to believe that you can do things even when your results at the time are not showing, but believing in that process is extremely important, because in this industry, those interactions, those one-to-one interactions, and all of that success and all of that inspiration can happen immediately. It can not happen for 3 years and then suddenly happen, or be even more spontaneous than that. So believing in the people that you inspire and believing in that process is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And Tobey, like what you were saying earlier, that emotion, and both of you guys talked about actually that kind of emotional need and that degree of connection. I can totally see that within all of us, how we're all to varying like in different ways, but it's the same how we're very social creatures. Like we need other people to be around, to talk to interact with, and to see growth in regards to conversation or something like that. And that's really like that's why the podcast, I guess, has also been very important to me, because I can have these conversations. Like I've been given the opportunity to have conversations like this, to see the growth of people, to see that interaction and understanding, I guess. So yeah.
I know, it's so good to talk to you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Tobey.
I think no problem. No, oh, sorry. I was gonna say, what are your plans for music now? Because you've just released an EP, and you've released a single before that. You've released the single from the EP, then you released a single before. But right now, I believe you have 6 songs out on Spotify. You have more stuff on SoundCloud and stuff. But after that, what are your plans for music?
As of right now, I've been trying to write like almost every day of quarantine, just trying to like get my ideas out there. And since I'm literally been here, there's not like a ton of inspiration. So I've been trying to come out with a new single. I've been wanting to work on that. Hopefully, be this summer, this fall, and get a new single out. But like long-term wise, I really don't know. And I think that's kind of the fun of it, but also like terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I definitely, so when I go to college, hopefully this fall.
So you want to start a band?
Yes. We'll see where that goes. I think it'll be fun. Kind of just like a lighthearted thing, but I definitely am looking forward to that.
That's cool. That's very, I guess, I'm not trying to like berate it or anything, but I think it's cool. It's very like, I guess, teen dream.
Yes. Dude, that's a whole other topic, is like wanting to live a coming of age movie.
Yeah.
That's like,
I feel you. Yeah. We'll have you a guest again. Like, it will feel like,
Be on with someone else. Who else can we put on? That'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely. We could have two. That'd be great.
Obviously, we're always
That'd be super fun.
Yeah, because like at this point, no topic is foul waters, I suppose. Like we're gunning for everything here. So
definitely.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Tobey. And it's been great to obviously have this conversation and to know and respect your music and you as a person even more. That's been just like super cool. Yeah. And so it's good to see you doing well in quarantine, as you know, we're all in right now. I guess we'll call it a day then.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tobey. Make sure to check out her Spotify. I'll link it in this video.
Yes.
And her Instagram too. She's a great artist, and check out her EP too. I'll link that.
Stream lunch tables.
Oh yeah, thank you, Tobey. Best of luck for everything. I really think keep being authentic like you are, and big things are coming your way.
So the way we always sign off our podcast, this is tradition, mind you, is we say always. That's we just say always.
Okay, so always.
Oh, we didn't really give a countdown or anything.
Oh, we didn't do it.
Always. Okay, we're going.
Always. There we go. Always. Okay.